Okay, let's get into it. We're going to look at the front end first. And just to go through some basics, if we look down the left-hand side here, we'll see all the different visual elements, text, buttons, icons, and so on and so forth. We're going to make use of some of these to build the example that I showed before. So if we want to grab a text element, we'll start by drawing our heading over here, our title for the page, and we can call this our AI chatbot. And if we just want to center that quickly, make it bold, take it up a little bit. That's our heading for the page. And then we're going to look at our input, which is further down. So at the top, we have visual elements, which are quite static elements. Next, we have containers, which we'll get to in a bit. And then we have all our inputs. So inputs are anywhere where you're going to enter information, such as a normal single field input, checkboxes, drop-down menus. So for now, we're just going to use a single input for our question that we're going to ask over here. And this one, I'm going to say the placeholder can be called ask a question, ellipsis. And you can see that it's actually renamed this input for me. This is really handy going forward because when you've got a whole bunch of inputs and other elements, you're going to want to be able to find them when you've got a whole lot on the page. So make sure your naming conventions are nice and easy to understand up front. It'll just help you in the long run. So after we've done that, we're going to put a button next to this input. And this very simply is going to be our ask button. As soon as I type in ask, you can see it's renamed it to button ask, but you can call this anything you want. And we'll just line that up just a little bit. And in between here, what we're going to do is we're going to put our repeating group. So when it comes to groups, group is one big group, but a repeating group is many groups in a list. And if you look at it from a coding perspective, this is a visual representation of a list. Most things that you look at in a news feed or anything like that are effectively repeating groups. You don't notice as much because they are designed really well, but effectively they are the same kind of content repeating itself over and over again. So similarly in a chatbot, the content is still the same. One is a message, a message, a message, a message, all one after the other in a repeating group. So we're going to use one of those to put over here, and that's going to basically be our message group. And you can see that Bubble has shown us an example of what it's going to look like. Repeating group item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4. And in Bubble, what we do is we will design in the first group over here, and it replicates that design in all the following groups. So to talk about groups, they basically act as containers. So we're going quite advanced here without going through the group example first, but they are sort of the same in that this is a container of many items, and a group would just be one container in itself. And you can place elements in here while controlling them globally outside using the group. You can turn the whole group on or off, meaning you can make it visible or invisible, and that global property that you've assigned it will apply to everything else inside the group. Also, things inside the group will always reference to the parent. We talk about parent and child. So if you are doing something inside the group, it'll always take on the qualities of the parent. If you would like it to, you can make it standalone and not take on those qualities. But the benefit of a group is that you are able to let it take on those qualities. So we will not be using the group for now. We're going to just stick with our repeating group over here. And at the moment, if I click on the page, double click to bring up the page information. We're on the index page at the moment. And if I look at the layout settings, it's been really easy for me to demonstrate this so far because I've been able to just drag and drop elements onto the page and have them not snap anywhere. They have basically just stayed put. And that is because at the moment, the container layout of this page is fixed. That means that wherever I put something, it's fixed in that position. In the grander scheme of things, it allows you to put the elements where you want, but it does become an issue when it comes to responsiveness. And it's probably easier for me to show that. So as soon as I move it to either a row layout, you can see everything has now jumped. And if I go to a column layout, it jumps differently. And this is where the responsive engine in Bubble is very useful. It seems like quite a lot at first, but with fixed, okay, you can see that it's saved the settings from the column example. But row and column is what you want to be using if you want your web page to be responsive. So with column, basically what it does is it stacks all the elements on top of each other. So they are effectively in one big column over here. So this whole page you can think of as one column. And if I look at these different elements, they are aligned. I've clicked on the repeating group over here. They are aligned to the left. If I click the center there, it jumps to the center on the horizontal alignment. If I go back to the index page column, if I go to row, what happens here is that each of the elements follow along horizontally as though they're in one big row. So you can now think of this page as one big row. So AI chatbot in this example is following on from the repeating group that's on the left. If I have a look at my order of elements, you will see here that if I select AI chatbot, the text box that we made earlier on, if I go down here to the order, I could say make first, or previous would work the same. But if I say make first, it's going to jump to be the first item in this row. And then the repeating group follows after that. If it gets to the end of the row, it'll simply get bumped down below. And so basically things will work left to right when you are in a row layout, and they will work up, top to bottom in a column layout. So over here we can see that looks good. And if I want to apply this to this design, if I want to use the column layout, I can go ahead and I can center these by clicking on each element and making them center. There's my text box, and here is my button. At the moment, you can see they all follow suit underneath each other. They do look really squashed at the moment. That is something that we can talk about later when we get into margins and even padding if you want to go that route. They both are quite similar, but there's a distinctive difference. But you can see now these elements are right up close next to each other, following in the column layout that this index page is in. I'm actually going to leave this design like this for now, and it's not very pretty, but it proves the concept of responsive layout that the Bubble responsive engine is doing for us. It's really helpful when you go onto smaller devices and mobile, so it's a good idea to get into the habit of using these first. You used to be able to go through with the fixed options, but when it came to responsive layouts, things weren't looking the same on different devices, and that is not what you want. Responsiveness is really, really important, so you want to be able to focus on that.